Hey everybody, this is the Progress Report, and for the first time in now more than 2 weeks, I'm back in studio, and that's for a number of reasons. Number one is being the first Wednesday of the month, I always welcome to have my good friend Lou D'Alessandro, the Dean of the Senate, Chair of Senate Finance. This time he won't be the chair, but he'll still be very active on it, as my co-chair here, when Mike Filey's off being a good Hibernian and doing good things for the world with an Irish tinge. And tonight we are really excited to have with us as our guest Alex Walker. Alex Walker is a distinguished attorney. He was at one point the managing partner at Devine, Milliman and Branch, one of our premier law firms here in town, where I spent some time many years ago. Mm-hmm. And then, like sometimes happen with lawyers that demonstrate to their clients that they have not only legal skills but managerial skills, he moved over to be the CEO of the Catholic Medical Center, which is one of our premier institutions of healing here in the state of New Hampshire. And I just learned that because Dr. Joseph Pepe is certainly soon going to be retiring from his longtime position as president, he will be the president as well as CEO of Catholic Medical Center. And we're all hearing about the COVID crisis and its effects around the country. It's an interesting time, isn't it, Lou?
It is.
On the one hand, we see the vaccines are almost there.
Almost
there. And I guess in Great Britain, they've actually approved one of them to be distributed. And we have two, maybe three that are, two now being before the Federal Drug Administration for final approval for emergency use. So that's all very exciting. Maybe we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, and maybe this time it isn't an oncoming train. Yeah. Which, when that phrase was used, sometimes that was what it was. But in the meantime, we're seeing devastating impacts around the country, including very distressing impacts here in the state of New Hampshire and in the great Queen City. And it's affecting our premier medical institutions, which certainly includes Catholic Medical Center and the Allied Health Systems, and these are the people, and these people have faced many crises, many problems dealing with this, and so that's why we're so pleased to have Alex here with us tonight. Alex, thanks for joining us.
No, my pleasure. Great to see you both again.
It's really great to have you here. And congratulations on moving up to being the president of one of our premier medical institutions in the state of New Hampshire.
Thank you.
Catholic Medical Center. Alex, I know when this crisis first hit, there were I'm talking about back in the spring, there were all sorts of dire issues that affected your hospital, affected us all. I mean, we didn't know anywhere near as much as we know now, and I suppose there's reason to take some comfort in how much knowledge we've gained, how much better we are at treatment. But talk a little bit about how this has evolved for the Catholic Medical Center, because at one point there in the spring, the late spring, your situation was dire in many ways, including financially. What's all happening now?
Well, I mean, as you said, Bob, it has been just an unrelenting 2020, right? When we think about where we were in the spring, and think about the spring. I mean, it seems like it was
yesterday.
Lifetimes ago, though. I feel like
we
all kind of feel like we've aged in dog years, in 2020. It's just, so if you go back, you put yourself back in early March, when people were really starting to say, wait a minute, this is real.
And in March, we weren't even being told to wear masks. No. I mean, how we've evolved now. Masks are kind of a key.
Oh, absolutely. And so, and as you remember back then, we were getting these apocalyptic, models of what's going to happen and what the surge is going to look like. And everybody had one, right? So the Johns Hopkins had one, and Cornell and Penn and the University of Washington, and they were all saying the same thing, essentially, that it's going to be bad across the country, and it's going to be very, very bad here in New Hampshire. And so, we went from, being, you were, fully operational, community hospital offering world-class services, especially in the heart and vascular space.
Famous for that.
And, and literally over the course of the weekend of March 13.
March 13th. I'll
we
never
called, we got some guidance from the American College of Surgeons on Friday. We got additional guidance from the U.S. Surgeon General on Saturday about shutting down elective procedures. And on Sunday, we assembled, our entire medical staff on a conference call early on Sunday morning. And, to a person, they agreed we need to shut it down.
Right.
And that was a decision. Talk about a consequential decision.
Yes.
For many reasons, not the least of which, you had patients that were lined up for procedures that weren't going to get those procedures on Monday, and had to defer, their health care. And so that was a big component of it. The other massive component of it was just the financial consequences of that decision. But it was the absolute right thing to do, and I'm so proud of, our team and hospitals across the state, without hesitation, said this is the right, the smart, the safe thing to do, and we shut it down and waited, right? And then the surge that they were all predicting didn't come right away. Didn't come when people said it was going to. And
right, as I recall, you and I assume Elliot was involved in this too, but maybe not. You can tell me. You set up a surge facility up at SNU at the
well, we
facility
did,
there,
and
right?
that was and that was one of the as I look back on a lot of the things that we've done over the last 9 months, the work we did here in the community, the work we did in partnership with the city, in partnership with the state, in partnership with the Elliott Hospital, right? So we've been competitors here in the city for a very, very, very long time.
Yes.
And, we said the very early stages of this, we'll, lay down our arms, so to speak, and as competitors and, go shoulder to shoulder in terms of how we're going to deal with this. And, Greg Baxter and I, bump fists on it, and we've been doing that ever since, and it's been very helpful. And so the alternative care site up at SNU, again, was one of those great, community things that come together, working with the mayor and the emergency operations center at the city, with the governor and the commissioner of DHHS, Commissioner Shibonet, and the National Guard, right? So, and Paula Blank at Southern New Hampshire University, right, stepped up and said,
that's really a remarkable thing to pull off, and like in a very short time.
We did it in a weekend.
Be able to provide people with high quality medical care outside of a traditional hospital setting, like in what did it take you? A week?
We did it in a weekend.
A weekend.
We showed up on a Saturday morning at the Stanley Spiro Fieldhouse, and right on time. The National Guard, like the cavalry, literally showed up.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget Colonel Fessenden and his team stepped in and worked with us over the course of a weekend, and we built a 250-bed field hospital, essentially, in the field house, and where it sits today, ready. And our hope was that we would, build it, turn the lights out, and hope we never have to use it. And
at that time, you did not, right?
No, we didn't. We didn't have to.
It was there if it was needed. But
it was there, and that was the whole idea. That was the vision behind it from the beginning. And credit to the governor and the commissioner and the mayor for kind of stepping up and helping us.
It's an amazing story. You think it might be needed again? I mean, I'm jumping up way ahead from where you were then to where you are now.
Right.
But talk to us about where you are now,
because
we're hearing, that. The numbers are rising in New Hampshire. We're doing pretty well with many other parts of New England, not all as well as we were, but we were doing pretty well. But nobody's immune from this thing, right?
No, nobody. And we went through our so-called surge a little bit later in the spring and early in the summer, and here, especially here in the city of Manchester. And so, at CMC, we have treated over 1/3 of all of the COVID patients hospitalized in the state of New Hampshire. And
Is that in Manchester or just at CMC?
that's just at CMC.
Really?
The other third, the other 1/3 has been at the Elliott. And so between the two of us,
We got 2/3 of the.
we've seen 2/3 of the, and now it's this, and that's from the beginning of the pandemic. And so it's definitely been focused here in Manchester, or was during that initial surge. Today, we're seeing it spread out
Yes.
Yeah.
throughout the state. So we're
Right.
seeing more cases in places that previously, had not
Right.
treated many COVID patients.
And one of the things that really struck me when you gave us all a briefing there, and that I can't remember, it was June or whenever it was, but early on was
Right.
the CARES Act.
Yeah.
Which was a huge, important thing, with providing payroll, unemployment insurance benefits and many benefits, and benefits to many hospitals, but not your hospital, not Elliott.
Yeah.
It was the so-called critical access hospitals, right? So did you ever get the help and did you get any help from the CARES Act to manage the financial impact on this on your institution?
We did. It took a while, and so, the CARES Act, and how the money from Washington was distributed was conceptually smart and well-intentioned. That they would take, they would create a formula to get money to hotspots, for example. And so they create a formula at HHS in Washington, and then they literally were pushing money out of Washington directly into the bank accounts of the hospitals that qualified under that formula. And so when they did an initial round of hotspot funding in late April, the cutoff date for declaring how many COVID patients you had seen, was April 10th. We hadn't seen hardly any patients at that point, so we didn't qualify as a hotspot.
I see.
So we got nothing, and no hospital in New Hampshire did. And then, by the time we qualified as a
Right.
hotspot, right? They had moved on to funding rural hospitals, and
Right.
so obviously we're not a rural hospital.
Right.
So we didn't see anything there. And then by that time we had, we were seeing, a third of the
Cases.
patients, and the Elliott was seeing the other third. So there was a point in time where we had seen 2/3 of the COVID patients in the state of New Hampshire, and had between us received less than 10% of the federal money.
My goodness. My
So
goodness.
it was, it's just the law of unintended consequences kicked in big time, and we fell through the cracks. However, our congressional delegation and Senator Shaheen in particular, pushed, and, we did see some funding in the fall for being a hotspot. The governor set up a relief fund, and we've seen money from that. So could it have been more? Absolutely. We're hoping that, after the first of the year,
More
we'll see more out of Washington,
Right.
for
with the
sure.
package.
But it's it's been a challenge, for no question.
Now, as I remember, in those early months, March through June, you were in a real. You had many alligators to wrestle with, including a financial one, because you had put off, as you just said, starting on March 13th. All of a sudden, all the elective surgeries are off.
Yeah.
That's a very important revenue stream
It
for
is.
hospitals,
Yeah.
especially one with the fine reputation you have for many areas, but cardiac issues particularly. Have you been able to get back and I assume you're now back to doing those elective surgeries, and is that made your financial situation okay or better at least?
No question, it's improving. We started doing time-sensitive procedures back at CMC and around the state, really at the beginning of May, and worked with Commissioner Shibinette and the governor's office to craft some guidelines around, reopening, to do it safely and to do it in such a way that patients would feel confident and comfortable and secure about coming back into a hospital. And so we've been able to do that and have been improving, every month since then.
Are you caught up now, or is there still a backlog?
Oh, a backlog of
Elective surgery that was postponed.
Yeah, we've caught up for the most part on that, and really trying to instill in patients, confidence about coming into a hospital. But
is there still a resistance to coming into the hospital?
No question.
The part of the people who probably could very much benefit from the services you could provide.
I think so. I think so, and you see it. The emergency department numbers are down. So, and they're down among the lower acuity cases. So people that would previously, come into the emergency department for kind of a low acuity situation, they're not coming back. Now, hopefully, they're going to the urgent care or someplace.
Going.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that's transpired, Alec, that is it concerns me is people's desire at this point in time not to do anything and to stay locked up, and they're following that mantra, and as a result of that, many things are going undetected and untreated at this point in time. There'll be a surge.
Yeah, that's a concern. I think you're right.
No question.
There'll be a huge surge at some time.
And we're talking so on that point, we recognize that, and patients that are a little reticent about coming back and showing some reluctance or have questions, we're talking with them, and we're having nurses are talking to them, the doctors, the physicians are on the phone with them to walk them through the process. And so part of our reopening, was not just instilling confidence, but showing people why they should be confident.
Yes,
like the screening procedures.
Sure, exactly.
When you come in.
Yeah.
Right. So we had our
So when you come in for, say, an elective procedure or even an emergency procedure, are you immediately tested, and do you have a prompt result for that test?
Yeah, you're going to get tested. You're going to get screened, and you feel confident that the folks that are going to be working with you and on you are likewise, safe and are have all the proper equipment on, the PPE,
right,
and that the entire environment is at all times safe, for you and for our staff.
Yeah.
Right. Our staff, I can't tell you how extraordinary they have been. Right.
Yeah.
And CMC, as you both have acknowledged, right, it's a special place.
It is.
And has been for a long time, and so gratifying to see how CMC has, from the very beginning of this pandemic, led from the front, right?
Yeah.
And so whether it's, helping to build this, field hospital over at SNU, to the work we're doing out in the community with our healthcare for the homeless program, to the frontline workers in the emergency department and our ICUs. It's just extraordinary work, and when people talk about, you hear the term healthcare heroes a lot.
You
Yes,
certainly do.
Yes,
right?
You sure do.
Yeah.
And so we have a hospital full of them, and
Right.
they're there every day, and it's just extraordinary work that they all do, and patients should feel really super confident about getting care, because they shouldn't defer it. You really should not be deferring the kind of care that we offer.
Well, it's that level of comfort that has to be reestablished on behalf of the patient.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that my daughter-in-law is a school nurse, and she's a school nurse at Concord High School, and is seeing people all the time, kids all the time. And in many of those cases, they should have gone to another setting, but for some reason they don't. And as a result of that, they prolong the situation, and sometimes it exacerbates and gets worse. Where under the old system, you would have gone right away. to your family physician or to the emergency room and so forth. But I think, Alex, the thing that really concerns me is the surge that has taken place in New Hampshire over the last 30 days. And in today's newspaper, 15 people have died at the Veterans Home in Tilton. 46 people have tested for the virus. These are within the system, and 20 of the workers.
Also at Tilton.
Yes. So you put this is all at the Veterans Home.
Yeah.
And that's startling, because I know they take precautions there. I know they work very, very hard. The commandant is a wonderful person. I think the world of her. But you get people in a cloistered environment. You get a person from the outside who brings this in, which is 90% of the time what happens. And this surge takes place. And what's the ultimate result? The passing of people. I mean, we saw that in Massachusetts, and we had that terrible situation there. So long-term care facilities, still the place where the virus becomes pervasive. We have to deal with that. And now we're talking about the vaccine. And the anti-vacciners are coming out of the woodwork. So we have an opportunity to move forward. We have a group, a significant group. I was amazed at the number of people who talked negatively about the vaccine. And I found out one very significant piece of information. Only 50% of the people get the flu shot. 50% get the flu shot. And my goodness gracious, to me that's unbelievable.
Well, there's been an anti-vaxxer movement for quite a long time, and I didn't know it was that effective. But
it is
apparently
effective.
it is.
And I think the fact that media is 24/7 now, 24/7, and every day they're talking about the number of cases, the number of passings, and so forth, and so on. I think so much attention has been paid to this that you get so absorbed in it that you're looking around the corner for the virus. And I think that's a problematic situation that we have to deal with. The dispensing the vaccine, the plan that's going to be put in place by public health.
Right.
Who's going to get it? When are they going to get it? When is it going to come? I mean, all of these things become so important. When I was a young kid, it was polio, and the advent of the polio vaccine, and the Salk vaccine, and when you could get it, and so forth. This is reminiscent of that situation. But indeed, Alex, the hospitals are going to be faced with this as far as the eye can see.
Right. No question.
And it's costly.
And our incident command team has been kind of back on the case, reactivated to a certain degree to deal with a lot of these things, including what we're going to do about the vaccine and the distribution once it becomes available.
What do you expect your role will be in that?
Well, I think, the work that we've done thus far, with the state, just to coordinate on that, suggests that, the long-term care facilities will be kind of first in line, and then healthcare workers.
Yeah.
And so, identifying those healthcare workers that are on the front lines, that's going to be super important to make sure that we identify all that. And that's the coordination that's happening right now. With the state, because once it's here, right, people are going to want it quickly. And
I hope many will.
I hope so too.
I hope certainly one that will be very anxious to have this happen. I wanted to talk about your staffing. I mean, I think it's probably always been a problem, hasn't it, to adequately staff what's needed at our institutions. Maybe it hasn't.
Well, no, it's not quite. It's not. I would workforce challenges have been there as long as I've been at CMC. I've been there 9 years, and it's a constant challenge.
Yeah.
For a whole host of reasons, but it's particularly acute now, and it's not just CMC; it's around the state. And having the right people and having enough people to staff the beds,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To answer the phones,
Yeah. Yeah.
to talk to the patients. It has been, on the, just as we think about what's going on today at CMC and at hospitals around the state, I would hazard a guess that if you spoke with a representative from every hospital in the state of New Hampshire, they would say their number one problem today is workforce and staffing. Yeah.
And I suspect, you've had to deal with I forget what you told me. Right now, you don't have any COVID-19 patients. Did you say that right
No,
now?
we do. So we have 15. So our
15.
census last night was 15 positive COVID patients, but
None
none
in
of those
ICU,
none of those were in the ICU.
Well, that's certainly good.
Yeah.
But the staff that has to care for these people,
Yeah.
you have to worry about their health too, right?
No question.
And so that's got to be a big problem, right? Because I guess if somebody tests positive for COVID, you don't want them to be providing
Right.
care to
They get
your
quarantined.
patients.
Absolutely.
They have to be quarantined just like everybody
Absolutely.
else, right?
And when it's in the community the way it is today, employees are going to contract the virus.
Yeah.
And with the Thanksgiving holiday, just behind us, and kids coming back from colleges,
Yeah.
all over the
Yeah.
state and all over the country. You're going to see, an uptick in those cases, and we're seeing it every day in the state.
Yeah.
Um,
And are you having a hard time filling your staffing requirements at the hospital now?
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, we had a very, very busy weekend, and, really our team did an amazing job to find the right staffing, but that meant having people, work overtime, work many
Yeah.
hours. It meant, finding travelers and folks that would come in, and that's a very expensive proposition for an organization. And so
Would you welcome volunteers if people out there that want to volunteer to help out the hospital?
Well, I mean, to the extent that they're qualified and licensed and trained
So
appropriately,
like retired people and things like that?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, you have to meet all the requirements, but if people want to do that, we'd welcome them with open arms.
Well, very good. What do you see going forward? I mean, you got over some really tough times, and this isn't exactly an easy time right now, I guess, with this surge we're having here. What are you foreseeing in the next few months? I mean, do you think things are going to be lightening up and getting better? I mean, we have the vaccine, but somebody said, the vaccine doesn't help at all. You have to be vaccinated to have it help you.
No, that's great having a vaccine, but people need to line up and get it, and that's going to be, I think, the next big challenge for everybody is just the logistical challenges associated with vaccinating 300 million people in the United States of America.
Yeah. With you providing vaccination services at the hospital?
That's a great question. I don't think that has not all been worked out. We'll be doing it certainly for employees.
I mean, for most of us, we go to the get our flu shots at the CVS or the Rite Aid or, Walgreens or wherever.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting how healthcare has changed since my father was a country doctor in Goffstown. Man, what a different world that was.
Yeah.
He was revered, I tell you that, but, it's such a different world that we live in now, and so much of our healthcare is dispersed to things like our pharmacies, for flu shots and things like that, and all these development of all these urgent care facilities. It's a remarkable thing. I mean, it's just amazing the changes that have happened in our healthcare system. There's a lot to celebrate there, I think, as we worry about the fact that we don't have universal health care and we don't have, it's still a cost bearer for a lot of people to get the health care they need, but we have made a lot of progress.
We have. I mean, accessibility, in a lot of ways is exponentially better than it was historically.
Yeah.
No question.
Are you worried about this phenomenon we're hearing about of COVID fatigue? Are you beginning to see? I mean, this is a little bit outside of your
No,
resume.
it's not. I mean, it's a great question, Bob. I mean, we were talking about that this morning, with our staff, with our managers and directors. We have a monthly meeting, with, it's probably 100 people. And we talk about, that this has been unrelenting.
Yeah.
You know, if you
Very
think about
tough.
it's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard.
very
It's,
tough.
listen, I mean, it's hard on everybody. It's hard on
Certainly is.
everybody. Doesn't matter whether you work in a hospital, you're a school teacher, right? You're a firefighter. I mean, it's hard
Everybody.
on everybody,
Yeah.
right? So if you work in a hospital, it is particularly hard. And the folks that work on our nursing floors, in our emergency department, in the ICU, in our primary care practices, in our urgent care facility. Our urgent care facility in Bedford saw more patients in the month of November than they've seen in the entire history of the urgent care in Bedford, which goes back to 2011.
Wow.
And
Is that because people were deferring a lot of things?
no, it's a lot of it was people just needed care. It wasn't a matter of deferring anything. It was a matter of going to get the care they needed at the time they needed it.
Yeah.
And we were doing COVID testing as well. So the COVID testing was significant. And it puts a lot of stress on the staff because the work's hard. The patients, right? People are sometimes really nervous.
Yeah.
Sometimes agitated,
Yes,
edgy,
all of the
and you
above.
got and the way our staff deals with. I mean, it's really remarkable with like such compassion.
Yeah.
They listen, they hear what people are saying, and so the fatigue that sets in is real, and so people
Yeah.
need to find a way to balance that out. Right? You got to
Yeah.
take the
I
time.
mean, I mean, I've seen a lot of TV newscasts, which cover a lot of this, of course, about doctors and ICUs and hospitals around the country saying, we're just about beyond what
wit's
we
end.
can do.
Yeah.
We've reached the point where we may snap.
Yeah.
I mean, is that happening here too, or do you?
Yeah,
are we a little better off than that?
You see some of these, the scenes from around the country in places, where they're having the most intense
Yeah.
surges at that time. It was in the out west, several months ago. It was originally New York City. So I wouldn't for a second, say that the level of intensity that our folks have experienced has been anything less than anybody around the country. I mean, it's very intense. These
So
patients
you
come
have
in
you have a burnout issue.
very
too?
sick, and it takes a toll on people. But the team we have, I mean, they've stepped up each and every time.
I
They
bet
are
they- I
rock
bet
stars.
they do. I bet
Total
they
rock
do,
stars.
We have a call. Hi, Robert. Are you with us? Hello.
Hi.
Hey, you're on the progress report. Welcome.
Okay. I wasn't sure I was on the air or not.
You definitely
My
are.
question would be, how does it come to pass that England has got the vaccine now, they're administering it now, it was developed here in the United States, but, we can't have it. And the other thing I want to comment on, I was totally opposed to Trump giving some of his preferred people $2.5 billion towards the development of the vaccine. Meanwhile, Pfizer did it on their own, and they just had a promise that we would buy 100 million's worth of doses from them, once they succeed. I'd like some comment on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Robert, for the call. Got any comment on that, Alex?
Yeah,
I mean, it's
well,
kind of interesting that the UK, approved the use of the vaccine. Let's see, what am I doing here? The UK, I guess, just yesterday approved the use of one of the vaccines. I think it's the one that caller mentioned, and they're a little bit ahead of us, but apparently not by much. I
Nope,
guess the
no,
FDA
gosh.
is very close
Yeah,
to
not-
getting the emergency authorization out
not
for
much.
the
Yeah, that's what we're hearing.
the Moderna and the Pfizer,
Yeah,
right?
no, we're hearing it's going to be within the next week,
Yeah.
less.
So you're a little bit behind, but not much there, Robert. So that's one thing. Let me go back to testing, Alex. I recall early on there were some real problems with our testing. Apparently, we had some tests that were not just totally well designed for what they were intended to do. There were some problems. Is that all behind us? Are we now confident that our testing is up to snuff? And particularly, I think very important, when all, if you leave New England and come back, you're supposed to quarantine, and you can have a shorter quarantine if you have a test, right? one of the people in our office just went to Lowell to get her test, so she would not have to be out 10 days. Going to be out, I get much less than that. And are the testing problems over now? Do we have the capability to test the people who want to be tested? And do these tests have they improved in their reliability? And particularly the tests that have the quick results. Because you don't get a quick result, the test is much less valuable, right?
Well, that I would say, Bob, that is really kind of the nub of the issue. Is the tests themselves are highly reliable. North of 94%, 99.9% with some of them. So the testing is very good. The rate limiting step is the turnaround time on some of them.
Yeah.
And that is oftentimes due to the fact that we have to use a third party to do the testing. So we have to send it out to a Quest or a LabCorp, or a place like that. The in-house testing capability that we have is significant, light years better than what we or anybody else had at the beginning of this. So we've moved mountains to put in place some in-house testing. And the rate limiting step on that are the supplies needed to run the machines.
Yeah.
Right? And so a lot of that was on allocation from the state and federal government. And so we had to essentially get in line to get the supplies we needed to run the machines at full strength, to be able to not just administer the test, but turn those results around in a very short period of time. And so that's really where the challenge lies today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How has been your relationship with the state and the public health people here in the city and in the state?
Yeah.
I mean, have they provided the support you think you need? And do you think that they're basically the public health approach we're taking is the best one to take?
No, I mean, it's a great question, and from our experience at CMC and just from my experience being a part of that, I think from day one, from the folks here in the city, the mayor's office and the Department of Public Health, working with the city's Emergency Operations Center, working with Commissioner Shibinette and the Department of Health and Human Services and the Governor's Office. It's one of the things that really makes living and working here in New Hampshire great. It's 1 degree of separation here in New Hampshire, as you
We
know,
have the
right?
governors very close to the people.
So when we have an issue, we pick up the phone and we call or we text, and people on the other side of that respond pretty quickly. And so they don't always respond with the answers we want right away. And sometimes, there's a little bit of pushing and shoving that happens before we get to a resolution of whatever it is we're talking about. But the level of accessibility and the level of engagement, at the city level and at the state level has been ridiculously good.
Yeah.
And I think in like well-intentioned in a way that should make people, feel confident that, we're trying to solve this thing each and every day. And some of these, challenges, don't have easy solutions. But from our perspective, it's been as challenging as it's been good to have folks that you're kind of engaged with that, have their shoulder to the wheel as hard as you do.
Yeah. So, what do you think the next 2 or 3 months are going to look like for you and CMC?
Yeah, no, it's for us and at CMC, it's going to be the same everywhere. I think it's, between now and the time, we get the vaccine, we get people vaccinated, and this thing, settles down. It's going to be rough. I mean, I think it's going to be, you're seeing it now. We've got the holidays and we're seeing, some of what's happened as a result of, people being in closer proximity over the Thanksgiving holidays. The numbers continue to go up. So I think we're going to continue to see that, which is, why it's so important for people to continue to be very vigilant,
Yeah.
right, about how
Yeah.
they run their lives, and to be super safe. You know, we don't live in a risk-free world, right? So there's going to be risk associated with everything. But it's, you know, what this has taught us is, you know, having the right and appropriate risk mitigation strategies for everything.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. And so we'll just, you know, we're going to continue to do what we've been doing at CMC. We've learned a lot, you know, over the last several months. And so that's helping us this time around. So just the way we, the treatment for patients, the staff is experienced. I was saying this morning to some folks that, it's unfortunate that we've had to treat, the highest number of COVID patients in the state. But the good news on that, the silver lining is, we have more experience than anybody treating those patients.
And my understanding is, and maybe you can speak to this, that the capability of our treatment has greatly improved since we first addressed this. Right, we have much better outcomes because of better treatment modalities that are available. Is that true?
It is true, and I'm not a physician or clinician, so I can't get into all the details. I'm not knowledgeable on that level, but I can tell you, the staff, the doctors, the nurses, in our emergency departments, in our ICU, they have come a very, very long way in a short period of time, and in terms of learning kind of on the fly how to deal with this. And they're unbelievable. They really have done a remarkable job.
Yeah, I'm sure you let them know how much. You should let them know how much we all appreciate what they've done as heroic efforts. The people who get most richly rewarded in our society are people who manage money, but now we're seeing that there's many other people that have many, many contributions that maybe exceed those of the people that are managing hedge funds and so forth. Let's see, what else did I want to ask you? Oh gosh almighty, let's see, what do we not touched upon here, Lou?
Covered the waterfront.
We've covered a lot. We've covered a lot.
Senator Lou, have we okay?
I did want to talk about one thing. We still have a number of people in this society of ours. We're the live free or die state. People make that mean whatever they want it to mean. I once picked up a hitchhiker. I told you this story, Lou, and he said, "What's that on your license about live free or die?" I said, "Well, some would think it's a little fierce." He says, "I like it very much. I don't like to pay for anything." As I was giving him a ride. But we do have the problem. A certain number of people that just don't want to go along with public health officials' advisories. Like the number one thing we can do is socially distance, wear masks, and practice personal hygiene. And we have people that do not want to do that. We had the organization meeting over at UNH today on the outside. It was outside because they didn't want to go inside, either the hockey arena or the basketball arena, so they were outside. Yeah. And I understand there was about 50 people there that just said, "We're not going to wear a mask."
Well, you have that group that didn't want to wear the masks. You had 130 people that didn't show up. You had a very unfortunate situation which took place here in Manchester, where the Republicans gathered and had their caucus.
Yeah, and they didn't do it they could have done it remotely by Zoom and been perfectly safe.
But no report was given to anybody about
Nobody was told about it.
Those that were infected with the virus. You had to find out through the newspaper. So think of the people who were at that event, and of course think of the people who were at the event today. Alex, communication's a big thing in this life. And the lack of communication, and I'm going to cite something from my friend Bob Backus from the historical record. When Woodrow Wilson was president of the United States, the Spanish flu was in full bloom, he ordered every newspaper in the country not to report anything about the Spanish flu. Couldn't even mention it.
He never mentioned the
could-
Spanish flu,
couldn't
which was
talk
killing
about
far
it.
more people and were dying on the Western Front in
Right.
World War One.
Yeah.
Could
Never mentioned it.
Never
the President of the
mentioned
United
it.
States.
couldn't talk about it.
I think that's amazing.
When he went to the Treaty of Versailles, he was actually infected, and that certainly had an effect on the dealings that he was involved in. So communication is such a key element, and I think the truth is so important. And the key element is, in my opinion, is the physician who's very candid with the person he or she is treating. And I think if you develop that kind of rapport, the ability to move forward in this business, I think, is enhanced dramatically. And I said to you, I think the president of Dartmouth Hitchcock saying initially, wear masks,
Yeah.
a courageous thing. Some of the things done at CMC,
Yeah.
courageous things.
Yeah.
Let's talk to Bob. We have a caller.
Sure. Those things got to be talked about.
Bob? Hey, Bob, you with us? Hello?
Hello, Bob. Hello, Lou.
Hello, Bob.
Alex.
Hey.
Well, there's a
Where I
trick.
live, we have 100 units, apartments, and unfortunately, people do not get the message about wearing masks and staying 6 feet apart. They
Really?
congregate in various areas of the building, and they don't wear masks, and they just are very careless. They don't understand the danger and the risk that they're taking for each other and with other people. And it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is over here where I live. And I just thought I'd let you know about that.
Well, I think that's very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. And do you talk to people about this? Do you ask them?
Do you let them know?
Do you let them
Well,
know?
They just plainly they do not want to do it. And even though you tell them what they're doing is wrong and it can be hazardous to their health
Yeah.
and well-being, they still don't understand. And they figure that they have a right not to wear a mask if they don't want to.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's going to come back on them. There's going to be an epidemic of cases in our building.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I hope
yeah,
not, Bob.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
distressing
But-
to hear.
But it's very clear that once it starts, it grows like Topsy. And the way to defeat it is to wear the mask, keep social distancing. I mean, that's not the cure-all, but certainly if you could defer or you could eliminate 20 to 30% of the causation, you'd be a miracle worker in the old days.
Yeah, I mean,
you'd be a miracle worker.
As we talked about earlier, it's all about risk mitigation. We
Right,
don't
and-
live in a society free of risk, and
Right.
so as you go through your day, you're just mitigating risk wherever you go, and
Right.
wearing a mask is
It's-
part of the basic blocking and tackling
Right.
of
Well,
staying
it's,
safe.
it's really the only tool we got until this vaccine is ready to, be
Well, I
injected into us. I mean, that's
to,
it.
but to your point, Senator Lou, about just communication,
Yes.
it's so important.
Yeah.
And in any business, any organization, how we communicate with the various stakeholders, right?
Right.
From patients to the public at large to our employees, right? So 3,200 employees at CMC. We want to keep them informed
Sure.
and current on what's happening, and our team has been doing that. We have a daily report that goes out to everybody. We were, during the surge back in the summer, we were opening a phone line every Thursday morning for our board to understand, in real time. We did a number of calls with the folks in the legislature
Sure.
to
Yeah.
keep them
Yes, you did.
apprised
Yes.
of what's happening, and
Oh, I think
it's not easy, right? I mean,
critical.
and you
Right.
want to be, open, candid, transparent. People are going to ask hard questions.
Right.
You can't shy away from it. You need to lean into it, but something
Right.
like this, if you're communicating
Right.
well and on a regular basis with
Sure.
people, it helps to bring the anxiety level.
No question.
everybody.
There is nothing as powerful as the truth. You just have to convey
I
that.
heard that somewhere.
Well,
somebody smart
somebody
said
said-
that. Somebody
you
smart
the
said
truth,
that.
The truth shall set you free.
It's on the library at the University of New Hampshire. I wanted to prove to you, Alex, I did go to the library
Oh,
when
you did indeed. You are
when I was a student there.
Oh
I
my
did go.
gosh.
But just a quick kudo to Alex. Been a good friend for a long time, and I've called him about concerns at Catholic Medical Center, and no one has been more responsive than Alex Walker. When I call for a constituent, you're always there in answering, and I think that's, to me, that's one of the things that makes a good executive, the fact that you get things done and you listen to the concerns. And I know how difficult that could be at times. I know how difficult that could
Well, I
be.
appreciate you saying that.
but
I learned that
it's the truth.
lesson.
You know, Bob,
It's the
Yes.
truth.
Bob, this virus has turned into a real monster.
Yes.
And we're learning from this experience, and I hope we never have another one like it. But we've learned a lot. We've learned that this virus is different from anything we've ever seen before, and I hope we never have another one.
Yeah.
Well, we
And
hope
I'll
so.
leave you with that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for calling, Bob. Those are very fine comments.
Yeah. Well, I hope so.
You know, I was saw somewhere a TED Talk by Bill Gates from 5 years ago, and they asked him, what is the number one threat to this country? And he said, a pandemic.
Yeah.
He said, a pandemic. And I don't think, I hope, Bob, I hate to tell you this, Bob, but I don't think the threat is over when this virus is over. Because,
No.
I mean, there could be another one coming. You know, it's been 100 years since we had something this damaging. But we barely escaped we had some very narrow escapes, you know, with the SARS and, I mean, all of them. Ebola, all these things, you know.
Well,
we were very fortunate that those did not turn into a worldwide pandemic, and apparently it was a very close call. So you know, we have to be ready again next time. And I just want to put out a word which I've enjoyed saying here before. We had your friend Phil Alexakos on.
Oh, yes.
For our public health. Those people, I can't sing their praises enough. You know, you go to Alex's hospital when you need to have something repaired. But if you want to protect your health at the outgo, it's our public health people in the city and in the state and in the nation with Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx and all those people. They're the ones that are going to be the protectors of us against the next pandemic, and I hope we do a better job next time. And than we did in this. I hope we've learned something.
Well, I think we got to wake up to the fact that you need a public health service.
You need a public health service. This should not be the forlorn child of the health system.
We only have 2 cities in the state of New Hampshire that have a public health service, Nashua and Manchester. The only 2 cities with a public health service.
Yep.
Can you imagine that?
Yep. And we're very fortunate that we've got the skilled people.
Oh, we're
And,
lucky.
I mean, these people are working their tails off day
Anna
after day
Thomas,
after
Phil
day.
Alexakos, I mean, they are stars.
They are stars. They are really rock stars.
Right.
As are all you people at
Right.
CMC.
Well, how about
starting with you?
we were lucky enough to hire the city of Manchester.
Oh, the great Timmy Susi, the great Timmy Susi.
Great Tim Susi.
Oh, he is
Timmy
a star.
Susi, right?
Timmy
Yeah, you call
Susi
him
is a
Timmy
star.
Susi.
He is a star. He's my neighbor. He went to school with my kids. I just can't tell you how much I think of Timmy Susi. And I think you guys captured a gem.
Yeah.
And he's been an ingredient that's solely needed by.
He's made a huge difference.
Oh, I think
made
so.
a huge difference at
which
CMC.
one person can make a difference. One person who communicates well, who people trust and believe in, can make a tremendous difference. And given what's going on in our world today, those people are few and far between. So you better hire another one pretty soon, Alex.
We're doing our best.
Because we need them. We need them.
Doing our best.
Yeah, well, I applaud you for that. And I see Timmy every morning. He's in there early, and he's home. He comes home late at night, and always has a smile on his face.
He does.
Just a quality
Well, he's
guy.
doing something he knows makes a difference to people.
Right.
As
Well,
is Alex
Well,
Walker.
and that's just, you see it with Tim, and you see it with the rest of the leadership. It's all about good leadership, and part of good leadership is having a smile on your
Right,
face.
you gotta
and,
smile.
you got to be a
Right.
happy warrior,
do.
right?
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
exhibit some grace under pressure, and
Right.
and we're lucky enough to have
Well,
a team that does that every day.
We're lucky to have 2 such entities in Manchester, 2 going concerns, two great hospitals, many other attributes. But the fact of the matter is that they're there doing the job, and indeed servicing the people who have needs.
Yeah.
And,
Well, that's what we're there to do.
Right.
That's
That's
our
what- that's what-
our mission. Health, healing, and hope. And that's it's not just a mission statement that sits on the shelf and gathers dust.
Yeah.
It's something that we care deeply about and we think about every day. And people around the organization know what our mission is. You can't say that about a lot of not-for-profits.
Right.
You ask them, what's your mission?
Right.
Our
Well,
folks know it, and they
good.
they live it every day.
Well, you got to hang
Well,
in.
we're at the end of our hour here,
Oh,
Alex.
it's been an hour.
It's been an hour.
Oh my gosh!
And I can't thank you enough for coming in and joining us. I know what a busy life you lead,
Yeah.
but this has been really terrific to have you here.
Manchester, I would. Gosh, I don't know where I would rather be.
I'll take that with a grain of salt, but thank you. This is really great, and I think we had some good calls too, so I appreciate that.
Right.
And go forward and continue to do great stuff.
Right.
We'll probably get back to you at some point about something else, maybe other than this, but maybe this too. All right, everybody. See you next week for another edition of the Progress Report. Enjoy your evening.